The following show is brought to you in part by support from Robbins, Kaplan, Miller, and Cerisi. We don't just practice law, we make history. Online at rkmc.com.
Hello and welcome. As part of our series on Minnesota leaders, I'm very excited tonight to introduce you to my guest. I am at Orchestra Hall in the conductor's office, and I am with the former conductor, the former director of the Minnesota Orchestra, Mr. Stanislaw Skrowaczewski. He is now the conductor laureate, which is a wonderful title. He is also just appointed to be the Yomiuri Nippon principal conductor in Japan beginning in 2007. He has led a life that is so full and so rich and has had so many exciting and wonderful things that it is hard to know what to tell you. But I just want to give you a few basics, and then I will turn it over to Stanislaw. He grew up in Lwów, Poland. He was a child, I want to say genius. He says no.
Oh, no.
You say no. In terms of your musical and mathematical abilities. As a young man, you conducted various orchestras in Poland before you won the very prestigious International Conductors Award.
Starts, locally, and then later, after the war, the borders were not quite free, but you could get passport for it. And then, of course, came Western Europe, very large field for a conductor, for a musician, with so many cities, with old culture. And in '58 came America, United States, yes.
And that changed your life, didn't it? Your conducting with the Cleveland
Orchestra.
Orchestra.
But also because of the Cold War, you see. I was unfortunately taken by Soviets, by communistic regime, and I would say I escaped, because I didn't escape as such, because I was offered the position in the West. This is different. And then, but we decided, my wife and I, we decided just to stay here. We liked here very much, and I consider this always from the musical, professional point of view, more than political. Of course, this was very great luck for me to be in United States from 1960. But if I couldn't get this position, I would be probably Western Europe, somewhere. I was offered at the same time 2 positions in Germany and Switzerland, so I could choose.
And you chose in 1960 to become the director of the Minnesota Orchestra, and held that position for 19 years, almost 2 decades.
19 years. It seems terribly long these days, because the conductors with the jet era, they just go and they stay 5-6 years, maybe eventually 10 years, and they want to go away, and other people want them to go away very often. The both sides. People get tired.
Do you think 19 years was too long?
At that time, no. No, because the American musical life considered the music director of the major symphony orchestra to be a person that stays for many years and forms his orchestra, his sound, his character, his programs. He or she educates the public in certain direction, or generally speaking. So it's It is.
It was not too long
yes.
in your case.
Well, example, at that time, Philadelphia had Eugene Ormandy, who stayed 44 years.
Was it
His
44?
life.
I
Yeah,
didn't realize.
until really his almost death. George Zell stayed 24, Kusevitsky something like 20 something. The other conductors like New York Metropolis here in Minneapolis. Metropolis was almost 10 years. Dorati 9 years. You see, this was short for that time.
So 19 was not, as you say,
no,
so
it was accepted, and but at that time, people changed in a sense. A generation changed, and they see, let's have a new blood. And from my point of view at that time, I felt that once I got the new hall, because I hammered for 10 years, the community, you must have a symphony hall.
Now you
Orchestra
and
Hall.
Ken Dayton were pretty much the two
Well,
that
Ken
led
Dayton,
the whole
Ken
charge,
Dayton
weren't
was
you?
a wonderful person, not only my good friend, but a friend who understood all what is necessary to really to develop orchestra, to develop artistically community, to add to community. Like in 63, they built the Guthrie Theater. In 63. But unfortunately, only in 74 they built Symphony Hall, Orchestra Hall.
So you had many years at the
but you see,
university.
that this needed from music director a permanent convincing articles, meetings, and convincing. This is the leadership that you want to hear later, probably, spiritual leadership, to show people what is really necessary and lacking.
And the importance of having Orchestra Hall has been immense.
A great change for everybody, for the musicians, of course, for our quality of sound, and but also the greatest change was for the public. And this was really important because the public finally could hear the orchestra, how orchestra should sound.
The acoustics.
You know, example, when we were in Northrop Auditorium, which was just bad hall for concerts, very bad hall, and there was nothing to help to improve. We tried new shells, they don't work enough.
So how frustrating for you as conductor.
Well, let me finish with this. And then with me, I was insisting of the board that we have to go at least once a year. The orchestra was famous for touring around and everything, eventually bigger cities. I said, we must every year go east and be in Carnegie Hall, which at that time and was absolutely the best hall in the United States. And then some people of the board, some directors, were coming to our concert, and they told me, "Listen, why orchestra plays so well in the Carnegie Hall and not so well here?" I say
they did not
I
understand.
Said, they play the same way, only you have a very, very bad
different
hall.
experience.
Yeah. So this was.
I want to go back just for a moment and talk about your very early days, because I was so fascinated by your history. He started playing the piano at 4, the violin at 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Your mother was a concert pianist.
Yes, yes. Well, I must say, in a long perspective of my life, that my childhood was really
amazing.
Wonderful.
You conducted an
I didn't feel it
orchestra
this way at all. I
at
was
the time?
angry with many things, you know, and had problems and this, and I was fighting with well, my laziness. For example, I would like to go to play sport, not to learn.
Did
But
your mother, she was a pianist, did she force you or pressure you?
No, well, the parents were wonderful, but they didn't, how to say, they didn't force me to do certain things.
Okay.
Only I saw the benefits of certain things that I will do. Well, but certain things are absolutely innate, and we don't know why. As a really baby, 1.5, 2 years old, I was crawling under the piano, not in the room where my mother played, but under the piano. And then, and no one knows why, later I know this was I was in if you go under the piano, I always say to anyone, to bother and somebody plays, the piano sounds like 10 organs, big orchestra, symphonic orchestra. I mean, the amount of overtones and sounds and
we should
power.
sit under the piano today.
And power and power of it is amazing. And then it showed me, oh, there is something in the world that fascinated me, and I was in trance after.
At that young age.
I was. And then, of course, I started to play myself. Then I couldn't be under the piano, but then music as such fascinated me, especially the Viennese, great Viennese classical composers, Mozart, Beethoven, a little later Schubert, Schumann.
And then Bruckner.
And then, no, later. This is the end,
okay.
and towards second half of the 19th century, much later. I mean, not much later. I was 6 or 7, but I speak about the age 3 to 5.
Okay, you were so intrigued by the
Yes,
Viennese.
yes, and of course I heard radio, concerts to radio, and in Lviv we had a wonderful cultural life. It was a city with a big musical tradition.
And you said the third largest city in Poland at the time.
Yes, but especially very artistic. Two cities, Krakow and Lvov, were really two cities where with big universities since 500 years, you know, the old cities, wonderful culture. Lviv was interesting because it was southeast of Poland, from before 39, before the aggression, Soviet aggression and German aggression. And it was, as an eastern city, it was in this very interesting history, because invading Tatars, Mongols, Turks,
a city of survivors.
Wars
really?
with them, and influence, you know, with it was mixed with Ukrainians. Now this Ukraine, you know, Ukraine was not Poland. Unfortunately for me, for Poland, I think it is, the city was very much Polish and built with the Polish culture.
Stanislaw, I want to. I just got a signal from my director, and he said we have half the show is gone, and I want to shift us just quickly, if you
go
permit me.
Yes, you will have problems with me.
Well, I want to hear what you think. I want a whole 4 hours with you, but for right now, I would love to hear what you think are the essential, most important qualities in the world of music for good leadership.
Well, of course, in the world of art, it will be only spiritual leader. But, for example, not only spiritual, but maybe in a social way. Look at my being in Minneapolis. It was the first orchestra that I stayed longer, and I tried to change the life with the new hall, with the bigger orchestra, better musicians, more greater budget, and so forth. And this is mixed spiritual leadership and sort of social activity, you know. So
Overlapping.
it is always mixed with this. But as a spiritual leadership later, and even at that time, it is always my choice in history of music as a conductor, as a performer. I have to choose my programs, and these programs will be listened by public, and they will get the amount of music through a year or 2-3 years that I play as considering great music.
Mm-hmm. You brought a lot of what some people say avant-garde music to Minneapolis, to the United States.
In a sense, yes. In a sense, yes. Metropolis before me tried, didn't succeed because apparently he was too good-hearted, and he was taking compositions, scores of people that did not deserve to be played by the orchestra. I was very careful in choosing avant-garde people, and I was choosing only the things that I considered, they are really sort of milestones in certain direction history, and as such I was trying to convince public almost ahead of time by talking.
Were you pressured, Stanislaw, by marketing people to do more traditional things?
At the beginning there was no marketing people. They are not
so
necessary.
You had free reign.
Yeah, there are, when we started this in the 70s year, the office grew to 100 persons. Mr. Omadi came for guest conductor. He said, "My God, your office is larger than the orchestra." And we in Philadelphia, he said, "It's not bad orchestra. We have music director, my secretary, assistant, manager, and assistant, and this is it."
That was the staff.
And
Wow.
we do,
Wow.
you know. It was absolutely absolutely a blow what he said this, but he was right.
What do you think was your greatest, has been, maybe is right now, your greatest challenge as a musician, as a conductor, composer? We haven't talked much about your composing,
the challenge comes with every program.
Each
in
night.
the sense of performing music as you think well, the best possible for you. Somebody, it could have a criticism. It can say, "Oh, this was terrible." Somebody can say, well, this is question of choice. But I have to be convinced that I gave the best performance, in my opinion, for the point of view, not only technical, point of view or of a certain depth of music, to show depth, to show I would say metaphysical qualities of music.
Has that been?
You see, this is so different of technical. Today,
Yes.
many younger conductors tend to be perfect, very fast. They think the tempo will
Faster
save them.
is better.
Well, and very often the gist of the music, the depth, the message is not there, very often.
So you are and have been always concerned with the
it was,
emotional, spiritual
you know,
part.
it was absolutely my point of view. I didn't learn, and well, if you wish, I learned it from great conductors, great performers, not only conductors, great performers, great pianists, great violinists, with whom we talked, we played together, and we discussed somehow these things. If not discussed, we discussed while playing, you know, looking at
talk
and
and
I
play.
saw sometimes that somebody was very pleased with what we do together, you know, many like that, and it was great. Then I was convinced, really, we do something that we bring this work to the life in a proper way.
Do you feel a frustration that you are known around the world as a composer as well as conductor, but the time to compose has gotten squeezed, hasn't it? Has that been hard?
Example, when I came here, I didn't compose for a little before even. I was very busy in Western Europe as conductor. After the Rome competition, I was so busy that I couldn't conduct because I compose very slowly and extremely slowly, and then after a day or two of thinking, of deliberating, I write a few bars, and the third day I throw it away. You know, this is my composing.
No good.
No good, no good. And my wife picks up these pages from garbage can and say, listen, maybe there's something good. I say, no, throw it away. And I edit, and they became very, very famous say, I wish many more conductors would do the same thing. You know?
Be more critical of themselves.
Well, yes, yes. Well,
are you composing now?
I'm composing. I'm keeping this summer completely off trips, off concerts, off vacation, and I'm writing two major compositions.
That is exciting to hear. You are 82 now. You are going
Don't
so
mention. Don't
fast
mention.
yet.
I don't feel it.
Do you feel good? Obviously, you look
yeah,
great.
I must, yeah.
And you exercise, you told me, every day.
Yes, one should. Not only body, but mind.
The mind-body connection.
Mind is very important.
Do you have, Stanislaw, at 82, a regret about your life that you say, I wish I had done something differently in this regard?
I have some thought that what would have happened if I would take, as I told you, I had 3 other propositions of major orchestras in Europe as Minneapolis. And I wonder what would taken if I would take one of them and Minneapolis. But this was just the beginning of jet era, just the beginning. And travel between Europe and States was I mean, not difficult, but long and tiring. And more at that time, both institutions, the one was in Germany, in Cologne, demanded more of my presence, especially Minneapolis. Just to be here and to do 20 programs, 20 weeks season, and the season was at the time 24 only weeks. So but 20 weeks here, and if in Germany they would ask me for 20 years there, it would be impossible. With the traveling.
Yes, and having your
and
children
and
Christina, your wife.
I think it was a little, I mean, it was not stupid, it was very wise, because I could prepare my things better. Really have time to do it, but maybe stupid in the point of view that I was somehow be maybe less prepared and still very how to say flamboyant and knowing the matter, but not to the point that I consider knowing now these days or later. And I was this was maybe too honest.
You were thought of as a taskmaster, a very strict conductor, a strict with yourself composer.
One has to be absolutely up to the very, very point. And you see many of flamboyant young conductors that do big career at 20 something or 30, and in many cases they are so unprepared musically. And what they do is musically not good. Not good.
Do you think we are in a bit of a decline in terms of our leadership in music?
No, there is decline of what we consider great art in all arts, in music, maybe especially in music. You know, avant-garde in the middle of 20th century brought big historical reaction. And in America, it started by minimalism. And as a world minimalist, it's to me terrifying. Because as a minimalist, you cannot give really the great, I mean, you are not striving after something that is really developing the great art of many centuries before, to developing and to be at the same level. And especially the first works of minimalists were absolutely so poor that was really a shame for me that I present to public. And the public, any public is more or less educated, but not perfectly educated. And the public say, oh, this is very nice, we understand this, because it was almost beneath the public acceptance, you know, artistically. So it was a very bad reaction, and from this reaction started, generally speaking, I call it in French, dégringolade, down. Yes, from the point of view of treating great art as our religion escape, metaphysical escape to somewhere, somewhere out of this world, not only pleasing to your senses or to your mind in the sense of construction and so forth, but giving some dimension of infinite. And this nowadays.
And that dimension is
well,
fantastic.
I wouldn't say it
when
doesn't
it's there.
exist, because some people are like that, but very, very few.
Stanislaw,
Very few.
we are
You
getting
know,
the signal that we must stop. The
Oh.
half hour is over. I'm so sorry. It has been just fascinating
Wonderful.
and wonderful
Wonderful.
to be able to sit with you and visit. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you, Mary.
down.
Thank you.
Yes,
it was so sweet of you.
It was wonderful. And
Thank
I
you.
hope we can do another interview and talk more
Yes,
about
if you wish.
other parts
I'm
of your
here
very.
anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us. We have been talking and visiting about music and leadership, and I hope you can be with us again next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.